Hello and welcome to the news at 7, where we get to the heart of the day's stories and communities across Scotland. Tonight, we have exclusive access to Perth Prison, where a pilot scheme is tackling the use of drones which deliver drugs into the jail. Phones and weapons have also been smuggled into Scottish prison estate. We look at the measures being used to dismantle organised crime networks inside Scotland's prisons. Also tonight, the Scottish Government is set to allow a controversial £40 million resort by Flamingoland at Loch Lomond after the National Park rejected it. We'll have reaction from locals. We'll have all the sport with Lewis. What have you got for us tonight?
Well, Louise, he was battered and bruised and maybe still recovering from the celebrations, but I spoke to Bologna's captain from Hamilton, Lewis Ferguson, after his side won their first trophy in 51 years.
Hello, I'm Louise Cowie. Welcome to the news at 7. Scottish prison bosses say a pilot scheme to combat the use of drones to deliver drugs and weapons into jails is helping dismantle organised crime networks on the inside. Drones are now described as the preferred method of dropping illegal items, which have been ordered by inmates. To learn more about this, I caught up with Natalie Logan, who runs the Rehabilitation Cafe in Glasgow's Barlinnie. But first, Fiona Stalker got exclusive access behind the scenes at HMP Perth.
The main obvious thing is the drone itself, okay? Public enemy number one at the moment. This one in particular has 6 rotors, quite heavy duty, quite large.
The items recovered from the fishing lines dangled off the drones read like shopping lists.
They do love an iPhone, right? It's a phone of choice. It's the one we see most often.
Then there's the drugs.
What's that?
That is street Valium, Tizolam, Bromazolam, okay? It really is just chemistry now as to what you get.
Bespoke parcels like this are worth thousands of pounds to some inmates. Thwarting the drone threat is the priority. Drugs inside mean a spiral of addiction and debt, fueling business for serious organised crime gangs.
The impact on people is significant. So it's fueling the use if they are a drug user. It can be the introduction for somebody who hasn't taken drugs before. It can mean then, as you desire more, that you get into debt for that. And that then leads to violence if you can't pay.
And it's very organised.
It's highly organised.
As well as these new methods to combat the ever more sophisticated supply of drugs into the jail, there's also the drive to tackle demand.
Stevie hopes the jail's recovery cafe will lead him to a drug-free life.
Just ended up on drugs as a young lad. Just ended me into prison, into crime, to feed my drugs. And then I've not really sought help for it. Like, I'm in prison this time and I've got some help. Seem to be doing all right.
Since these grills were fitted, no drones have breached the building. But it's like a lethal game of cat and mouse, the fight to shut down the ever-changing and highly organised supply routes.
Before we came on air, I spoke to Natalie Logan, who runs recovery cafes in Scottish prisons. She's been giving evidence at Holyrood about the drugs problem within our jails.
So Cisco is a cafe that was created for prisoners by prisoners. In 2016, the Scottish Prison Service identified a gap in recovery initiatives, and they wanted to duplicate what was happening in the community. And that was to create a recovery cafe. So recovery cafes are predominantly peer-led, and that's about empowering individuals that are using substances to really take control of their life. And what we know about prison is men don't have control of really anything at all. Their decisions are made for them, the routines. So with the recovery cafe, they get to make decisions about what their recovery looks like, what their care plan looks like. It's also a voluntary service. So they volunteer to attend. It's not mandatory or part of the Scottish Recovery Service, it's part of the SPS regimens. And what we do is we meet people where they're at and we create a care plan based on their needs, not our outcomes. So individuals may come with grief and loss, so we can then signpost them into our counselling service, or they might be coming because they're chaotically using substances, so we'll look at harm reduction approaches. We're just a whole person-centred service that looks to help men leave prison feeling whole again.
We've been reporting on the use of drones being used to drop phones, drugs, weapons into prisons across Scotland. What impact does that have? You know, you've spoken about empowering men, but what kind of impact does that have on those who receive them at the other end?
It reduces our ability to offer rehabilitation if the men are getting access to drugs. The bottom line is they're going to use them, and the type of drugs, I think we need to talk about the type of drugs they're using. So they're not in there using party drugs, ecstasy, cocaine. They're predominantly using drugs to kill pain. So bromazepam, atizolam, the street diazepam, that they absolutely know is killing people because they're in emotional pain and some in physical pain. But it's pretty harrowing when you're firefighting against a problem and trying to create a solution. But there is men and women in prison that want to access help. They don't want to be using substances.
And Natalie, you've been giving evidence at Holyrood, haven't you? Tell us a little bit more about that.
So part of the giving evidence is about the substance misuse problem in Scotland and how we can look at better resources. Systematically, we have to dramatically change what we're doing in Scotland because it's not working. And I mean right across the board. We look at NHS waiting times, we look at GP waiting times, we look at how long people has to wait to see a care manager or an addiction worker. So this is just looking to better equip Scotland with resources that will work for people, as opposed to just tick box exercise and warehousing people in services that are not fit for purpose.
OK, Natalie Logan, thanks so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you so much.
Controversial plans for a holiday park at Loch Lomond have been backed by the Scottish Government, despite being rejected at a local level. The Loch Lomond and Trossachs National Park Authority had previously refused permission to theme park operator Flamingoland, but now the Scottish Government says it intends to grant permission for the development. Balloch and Haldane Community Council say the gloves are off and they will challenge the decision. Our reporter Gillian Sharp sent us this report from Balloch on the banks of Loch Lomond.
On a beautiful day like today, people flock to places like Loch Lomond for everything they have to offer. Now, a bit of the background: theme park operator Flamingoland wants to build a £40 million resort called Lomond Banks in this area. In fact, just up to my right here. Now, that would feature a water park, monorail, hotel and restaurants. And that's proved controversial, with protests from some locals. It was initially rejected by Loch Lomond and the Trossachs National Park Authority, who said it didn't comply with environmental and nature conservation policies. But that was appealed to the Scottish Government reporter, who has now said they intend to grant permission, subject to legal agreement between Flamingoland and the park. We've been getting some reaction to what's happened.
Well, obviously, having supported the development from the beginning, I'm happy about it. I think there's still a road to run and perhaps scrutiny to be applied, but basically I'm a happier man than I was yesterday.
Those behind the proposed development describe this as a milestone moment, adding they're committed to sustainable investment and jobs. Green MSP Ross Greer, a long-time opponent of the plans, called the decision an anti-democratic outrage. Gillian Sharp, reporting Scotland, Balloch.
Thank you for joining us on tonight's News at 7. We have more in the programme, including the singer-songwriter from Glasgow who's penned the Swiss entry for this year's Eurovision Song Contest final.
Our dry and sunny weather is set to continue right through the weekend. How long it will last? Well, I'll have all the details later in the programme.
Now, it's an arduous challenge for even the fittest, trekking through the Sahara Desert. Well, it's even harder for Fraser Wilson, a bank worker from Glasgow who had a heart transplant just 2 years ago. He hopes his 100-kilometre endeavour will raise money for homeless charity Crisis. I caught up with him a little earlier.
It's the Sahara. It's an environment I've never been in. It's for charity. It's an amazing charity, and I'm doing it with 90 colleagues from Lloyds Bank, so what could be better?
Tell us about the health condition that actually led to you having the heart transplant in the first place.
It's a genetic condition. It's a malfunction gene. It's the condition is dilated cardiomyopathy. So it's affected a number of people in my family. My mum passed away with it, and three of her brothers have all passed away with the condition. So it's been rife in the family, and it's had a real impact on us all.
And you're doing this trek later on this year. What are you having to do to prepare for it?
Training, walking. I'm not much of an outdoors walker other than round the city. So I'm having to get myself lots of new kit, which is the good part. I am walking a lot outdoors, proper hill walking. Got a new pair of boots coming soon, so hopefully I'll get to wear those in over the next 5 months.
It often sounds a bit twee, but do you think, given where you've come from just in the last few years, you're maybe going to inspire other people to think that they could possibly take on a challenge like this as well?
I really hope so. I really hope so. When I was in the hospital, I was in for 5.5 months at the Golden Jubilee, and it was an amazing place to be. I was really well looked after, and there were a number of other people in a similar position to me. And if seeing me doing this lets one of them think, do you know what, I could do that, then I'd be delighted and amazed.
And finally, are you looking forward to it? You sort of, you said before we started that you're, maybe a bit of trepidation there, excitement, but also nerves as well.
At first I was entered it quite arabociously. I'm really excited, let's do this. Now that I'm finding out a little bit more about it, it's becoming a little bit more real. So the training's going to have to be really hard, but I am really excited about doing the walk, and it's great to be able to do it for Crisis, which is an amazing charity looking to end homelessness.
Absolutely. Well, Fraser, thanks so much for joining us, and best of luck. I'm sure you will do wonderfully well.
Thank you very much.
Let's get a roundup of the stories making the BBC News app in Scotland. A 32-year-old man has admitted stabbing his mum to death in a frenzied attack in Peterhead in 2023. Jonathan Diver struck Elizabeth Watson at least 40 times at their home. A 7-year-old child has been excluded from Heathfield Primary in Ayr after bringing a knife to class. No staff or pupils were threatened or harmed during the incident. A Holyrood committee has said a catalogue of failures led to unacceptable spending of public money on items like Mulberry sunglasses at the body that regulates Scottish Water. Well, for more information on all these stories, you can scan the QR code on your screen now. It will take you to the BBC Scotland News app, where there's more for you, including why Scottish Doctor Who star Ncuti Gatwa has been replaced as the UK's Eurovision 2025 announcer. Now, hundreds of athletes have been celebrating the 50th edition of one of Scotland's most popular hill running races. The Dummiat Hill Race, which is organised by the University of Stirling, sees 450 runners from across Scotland complete an 8-kilometre, 480-metre ascent and descent. It was first established in the 1970s when a £1 bet was wagered in a university bar. We put on our running shoes to find out more.
This whole race was started on a bet that came from an argument in the sports pavilion.
It's lovely and undulating start, and then you hit the hill, and really you've just got to keep putting one foot in front of the other until you get to the top. But great fun, really slippy, quite steep.
Over 50 years ago, an argument started as to whether it was possible to run to the top of Dummiat and back again in less than 1 hour. And a most unlikely character called John Evans took up the challenge, and he ran to the top of the mountain here and back again in 58 minutes, and he won the pound. Dr. Ian Thompson, who is Director of Sport, heard about this, and he thought, well, that's a great idea. We should have a race every year, and it's been running for 50 times ever since then.
When you get to the top, there's an elation. You're absolutely elated that you've got here. And then it's all wonderful running downhill again. Now that it's part of the Scottish Hill Racing calendar, it's attracting people from all over the country, and this is seen to be a prestigious event on the Hill Racing calendar. This has run for 50 years and is still growing. And you can only be proud of having been in it at the very beginning and organising the very first one.
It's quite a challenging course. You run up through the woodland here and cross a burn by whatever means you can. And when you first break out of the trees, you generally suffer from a bit of a shock because you can see just how much more work you've got to do to get to the summit. And up towards the top, you're getting very, very tired. And by then, you're pumping your knees with your arms in order to keep going. But you have to keep going. You're committed. You're halfway up the mountain and you have to finish the race. It is a tremendous event to take part in. Anyone who takes part in it will remember it for the rest of their lives, I think.
Well, still to come, we have the weather with Christopher, but first it's sports time with Lewis.
Thanks, Louise. Good evening. Well, let's start near the foot of the Premiership, because on Sunday we'll learn whether it will be Dundee or Ross County who finish in 11th, the relegation play-off spot. And you can see from the standings here that County need to win at home to Motherwell to have any chance of 10th place. The Dark Blues visit St Johnstone, and Dundee boss Tony Docherty says his side will be galvanised by the officials' dramatic decision to award County a late penalty to equalise at Dens Park on Wednesday, when Dundee had been seconds away from guaranteeing their top flight status.
You know, any adversity you face, you know, you need to display resilience, and it's something that's steeped in that dressing room. Absolutely, there's good people in there, good characters, a group of players that I've got huge belief in, and they were hurt, and they were really hurting. We were all hurting, but when you do that together as a group and come through it together as a group, then it does bring a positive and a strong mentality, and that's what I'm looking to promote. And that galvanising of the group can only do is good going into Sunday's game.
I'm sure Dundee will, be feeling down in terms of they thought they'd, got the job done. That's not been the case. So now, like I say, we've got a real opportunity. The most important thing out of everything is that we win on Sunday. Everything else will take care of itself beyond that. So, like I say, that gives us real clarity and focus going into the game.
Meanwhile, in the top half, Aberdeen visit Tannadice in the hope to hold on to the 4th place against Dundee United, who could finish as low as 6th if they lose and if St Mirren takes something at Celtic. Don's boss Jimmy Tilleen knows their current 3-game losing streak is far from ideal the week before a Scottish Cup final, but reminds onlookers to consider the bigger picture.
Sometimes you just need to lift a little bit the eye and see where we are. It's the first year of a 3-year project, and we try to progress our work all the time to be better in the future. And now we have reached the goal to go to Europe, but we want the 4th position, and it's going to be a really interesting game tomorrow, and a really exciting game, and a lot to play for.
Well, away from these shores now, and it has been quite the week for Bologna and their Scottish captain Lewis Ferguson here, who skippered them to victory over Milan to win the Coppa Italia, their first major trophy since 1974. I caught up with Lewis earlier and heard how the showpiece final was an occasion he was relieved to be a part of.
I missed out in the Euros with Scotland after such a good season last year due to injury, and it was hard, it was difficult, I was upset. I'd never really been injured before, so I was so happy that, I was fit and available for the game on Wednesday night. It took a lot out of me. I'm still recovering. I took a few whacks on the face. As you can see, I'm a bit swollen. There was blood all over my shirt, but it was such an incredible night, and all those difficult times throughout the last year, when I was dealing with the injury, that it was all that hard work was worth it when I lifted the trophy.
There's such good storylines happening in Italy right now, isn't there, with players very, very well from the national team. Billy Gilmore, Scott McTominay, Shea Adams, so many Scots out there.
Like you said, Scotty and Billy are just on the cusp of winning the Scudetto, which would be incredible. I've spoke with them over the past couple of days. I've obviously messaged to congratulate us for Scotland. To have a player to go and win the Coppa Italia this week, and then hopefully in the next couple of weeks they can go and get that over the line. So so happy for them, so proud of them.
And there's plenty more for you on the BBC Sport website too, including previews of big matches for Glasgow Warriors and Edinburgh, who are in action very shortly against Ulster in the United Rugby Championship. And of course, the Premiership playoff semi-final second leg is straight after us. Louise, Livingston have a 2-goal lead against Partick, so a big game there.
It is. Stay tuned for that. And somebody to stay tuned for this weekend. Tomorrow there's a small matter of a singing competition. I heard you're a bit of a singer.
Don't tempt me to break into vocals right now, Louise, because we don't have enough time for that.
We don't, right, OK, we'll do that afterwards.
Yeah, later on, I'll say that.
That's your boy band era.
OK, exactly. We'll get
the less
to
said, the better. Thank you, Louise.
Exactly.
Well, there we go. There's a segue for you. Eurovision comes but once a year, and whether you love it or loathe it, it's hard to ignore the glitz, glam and sometimes the drama of it all. Well, tomorrow's grand final includes Switzerland's entry, Zoe Mee. She's singing Voyage, a song co-written by Scottish singer-songwriter and former X Factor contestant Emily Middlemass. I caught up with Emily, or Illy, as she performs a little earlier on.
Zoe Mee recorded the official demo in Scotland while I was in Switzerland, which is bizarre. We were working through Zoom and we actually haven't met in person yet, so tomorrow in the final will be the very, very first time, which is so exciting for us both. We have been pen pals, if you'd like to say, for some time now.
So how does that feel? You know, the first time you're going to meet her, even though you've been involved in this creative collaboration for 2 years.
It is such a surreal moment to know that I'm going to meet Zoe in the flesh tomorrow, and it's going to be in such a whirlwind of a moment. We're going to be in the green room together, sitting on the Eurovision sofas together, which is a moment I've always dreamed of. So to share it with someone like Zoe is honestly, I'm lost for words. She is such a genuine person, so I cannot wait to meet her in real life.
You said they're a moment you've always dreamed of, so have you always been a fan of Eurovision?
I've always watched Eurovision with my family and kind of listened to Graham Norton, and we're big fans of it all. So to have this moment for me and my family is a surreal moment, to say the least. We have been watching it ever since I was a little kid and have been massive fans, watching it in our living room every year. So this is the first year I'm not watching it in my living room with my mum and dad. I'm watching it in real life, and I have a song on it. It's so crazy.
And we know it's not your first taste of this sort of life. You were on X Factor, of course. How do you think this will compare to that experience?
It's such a crazy thing. I honestly feel like I've lived 100 lives with the X Factor and with so many other writing opportunities that I've done as well, and with Eurovision topping everything off. It's going to have flashbacks for sure. I think with all the cameras and all the staging and all the lighting, it's going to make me want the bug to do something like that again. So yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see where my mind goes to, and when I'm in that moment. It's been a while since I've been in front of cameras and an audience as large as that, so I'm really excited.
And finally, we've heard lots about the British entry. How do you think your entry is going to go down?
I've actually heard from a lot of people that the Swiss entry that we have is in the top 5 of the favourites, which is mind-blowing to me. We know that we have won already. This song is just so beautiful. We've won in our eyes. So I don't think it's about winning, but it's really special to know that our song is one of the favourites.
Right, that's Saturday night's television viewing sorted, isn't it, Christopher?
I think we need to find a beer garden with a big TV in it, though.
Absolutely.
The weather's going to be beautiful.
It is. You can tell us more about that, can't you?
I will. In fact, let's take a look at some of the pictures that have come into us today. Beautiful blue skies up and down the country. Great picture there from the Isle of Lewis. And, well, yes, a washing day there in Shetland. And you can see Kelvin Grove Park and a view of the university, beautiful blue skies. More of that to come through this weekend. Let's take a look at what's happening, because it's all thanks to high pressure, which is sticking with us through Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and probably Wednesday as well. So more of the same, dry and fine, lots of sunshine around. Now, first thing tomorrow, there will be some areas of cloud to start the day, certainly through parts of South Lanarkshire and the borders, in towards Edinburgh and the Lothians, and up towards parts of the northeast of Aberdeenshire, Murray, the far north and the Northern Isles. Elsewhere, it's a fine start to the day. Don't be disheartened if you wake up and you have that cloud, because it won't be with you for very long. The May sunshine is strong, it will burn it off, and then we'll have a fine late morning, lunchtime and afternoon. Lots of sunshine around. Temperatures in the west 24 or 25 degrees. In the east a touch cooler, and certainly if you're in that breeze from the north, a cooler feel. We do it all again actually on Sunday, because that high pressure is still with us. So once again it's dry, and there will be some decent spells of sunshine for much of the country. Bands of cloud across Orkney and Shetland through the course of the day, not lasting too long in Shetland, tending to clear into the afternoon, but it will lap on shore across parts of Caithness and the northeast, and actually chance of a shower towards parts of Ayrshire and Dumfries and Galloway late in the day and overnight. Maybe the odd rumble of thunder, won't last. By Monday those showers are gone and we're back to dry and sunny, certainly across northern parts. A bit more cloud in the south, temperatures down a notch, but still in the west at 20 or 21. Beyond that, we can see we've got high pressure linked to the north and to the south, but around about Thursday low pressure comes barrelling through, and that will see a change to more unsettled weather. Before we get there though, this is Tuesday. You can see it's still dry and fine. We've got some showers down towards Wales and the southwest of England, but here in Scotland, dry and sunny, a cool breeze once again from the north. Wednesday is similar, and certainly if you're around these North Sea coasts, it will be a rather cool feel compared with areas inland, but lots of sunshine. I should mention UV levels are high. You will burn because the sun is strong, but you can see the next few days dry and fine. Make the most of it. The rain will return. That's the forecast.
Oh, Chris, you had to ruin it at the end there, didn't you?
We need it, though. We need it.
We need it, apparently. We'll take it while we get it. Thanks so much. And that's all we have time for. There are news bulletins throughout the weekend. But from everyone here, do enjoy the rest of your Friday. Bye for now.